Hello, everybody. Good evening. This is the Enough to Keep Going podcast, episode number 93. This is our deep dive episode. So we'll be going over the news articles from the past week, the May 6th through the 10th or so ish. I'm your host, Osiris Prime. And with me tonight, I have two gentlemen that are also bearded as I am, although one, not so much maybe. Agascles, Stamos, how's it going?
Good, man. I don't know. Yeah, sure, fine.
It's Tuesday. Just say
Right.
that.
Yeah.
All right. And also with us tonight is Mr. Swiss Guard. Swiss, how are you?
Not too bad. Just learned that this was episode 93. This is episode 93. And then I thought I had this idea to do like a Sesame Street episode 93 brought to you by like the best game of 1993. But Googling it, it's like Doom, Link to the Link's Awakening, Myst, Secret of Mana, Star Fox, and that was a good year.
You can't pick one.
No. Mortal Kombat 2, NBA Jam.
Oh.
All right. So I'm going to try to make this a thing, but I don't know if we can actually do it because there's so much.
There's too much to handle. Well, we'll see. We're going forward. We'll try to get that game of the year, or I guess game of your year, I suppose, going. All right. So let's get started here. Our deep dive. Like I mentioned, this is our news podcast, and we got a little, I guess, one-sided news stories today, sort of. I mean, there's been a lot of things that have come out this past week, and actually even last couple days, but we're focused on last week for now. So we're going to go into the umbrella that is Take-Two. Yes, we have a lot of Take-Two news tonight. Excuse me. They had their financials results I believe last week, and there's some interesting tidbits that came out of this. I guess, please, if you wanted to jump on this first. Maybe if you can possibly unmute.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I was trying to get the social media out before you pulled the switcheroo on me. So
I was trying to go as much as I could.
Where is it that you want me to jump in?
For Take-Two's financials.
Oh, sure. I can do that off the top of my head without re-looking at the article. The tale of the tape is that it was an incredibly successful. Chrome is giving me problems. It was an incredibly successful year over year. I think the most interesting thing to me, given the robust and vigorous conversation that we've had about the topic of Red Dead Redemption 2 and all the things that it means and indicates for game design. 24 million copies sold, and that's a hornswoggle. That's a bushwhackle. That's a lot of single copies of games that do not. I mean, games don't typically sell that many copies. When you talk about a single-player, story-driven game, now of course, Red Dead is helped out by the fact that it's multi-platform. So I'd be curious. I need to go look at some of the sales data and see what platform it sold best on.
Yeah, it was like a month or two before the multiplayer came out, right? I believe.
Yeah, kind of the same thing that they did with either the same thing they did or the lesson learned from Grand Theft Auto 5. I can't remember. I think the Grand Theft Auto 5 multiplayer did a staggered release from the single player. Yeah, and they say that it's doing well. I think he commented on, I don't know how many, 90 million people have played a 2K game in the last year or something to that effect. Text is a little small from where I'm sitting. But yeah, I think that's the most significant thing is those 24 million sold. Sales were up 47%. And the main thing, the other big takeaway that I had from it is that is their big E3 presence. And he didn't necessarily say, I don't think he says necessarily that, I'm sorry, the figure I was grasping for before was 90 million people had engaged with a Rockstar title over the financial year. That's not a Take-Two title. That's with a Rockstar title, which is one of several development studios within the Take-Two stable. And what that means is that there's a ton of people playing Red Dead Redemption 2 and Grand Theft Auto 5. That number is roughly equivalent to the total install base of the PlayStation 4. So that's like saying every PlayStation 4 owner has played a 2K game, or a Rockstar game within the last year. Just to talk about an analog. One of the other things that he mentioned as being a big contributor of the year, which I totally forgot about, was Sid Meier's Civilization 6. I had forgotten that was a Take-Two property now, and I think Firaxis Studios is actually part of Take-Two, the Take-Two conglomerate. So, of course, Civilization 6 had a release on the Switch, which I think, Prime, you and I both have. And then, of course, I believe when the Switch version came out that there was also a resurgence in PC sales, because I think a DLC pack dropped right about the same time. So a lot of renewed interest in Civilization 6. Obviously, then he talked about forward forecasting, as to provide guidance for the upcoming year. Borderlands 3 is obviously the cornerstone of that outlook. And then I was kind of surprised by the mention that they have games that are in progress in the stable that they may be discussing at E3. He wouldn't necessarily commit to discussing those titles. They might make it. There's also mention that, and I didn't read his Google Stadia comment as being robust confirmation that they're all in with Google Stadia. It was much more so a wait and see, that kind of obviously, will be in and around it. But we'll see what it's going to do. He also made very clear that whatever arrangement they make with Stadia would not be exclusive, and that they would be working with other streaming technology partners, most likely Microsoft's xCloud. So yeah, good news overall. $2.5+ billion in products shipped, which well exceeded kind of what they've done over previous years. I guess the question here was anybody surprised by Take-Two's announcement and how well they've done over the last year?
No, just with Red Dead, just with Rockstar games alone, they're raking in the money. Plus, they have their sports titles, which always do pretty big. They're always the more popular version over EA's, like basketball and actually just that basketball. They might do a hockey, or they used to do a hockey. I don't know if they do that anymore. And they have the WWE license, so that always does gangbusters too. So, and then WWE is kind of like the Madden for them. They always just throwing out every year. So it's not really surprising. The one kind of surprising thing is on the one GameSpot article is how they said GTA 5 sold 10 million copies in the last 6 months. Almost 10-year-old game, 8-year-old game, or something like that.
Right, and almost half as many units as Red Dead Redemption 2 did.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, I guess, because it sounds like I'm wishing them ill. I'm a little disappointed, and I guess I'm a little disappointed in the Red Dead Redemption 2 sales. Just that I don't think that game, as we've discussed, is a good fit game for lots of different types of gamers. Well, I guess one thing I'm curious about is I wish that was a game where there was some type of telemetry on who's still playing it. Because my question is, sure, 24 billion people went out and bought it, but how many people stuck with it for that long would be something I would be very curious to find out.
Yeah, I always thought everybody was hyped for Red Dead Redemption 2. And I played the first game and I liked it, but I don't know. I just didn't really think it had, the gusto, I guess, or the oomph like GTA. I'm sure it was going to sell well, and it has, and it did. But everybody, I don't know. I just always seemed like everybody thought it was going to be another GTA, and I was like, I don't really think so. It's going to do good, but I don't think it's going to be GTA good. So I just, kind of doesn't surprise me, just the numbers they're throwing out with that. And then another thing they noted on that same article, the GameSpot, excuse me, not GameStop, was that a million people continue to play Borderlands 2 every month. So it's everybody enjoys that game, I guess. So
Yeah, one other thing he alluded to, which I didn't realize, is I think it's kind of clear and obvious now that Ubisoft has made a very specific arrangement with Epic Games to launch most of its AAA titles via that storefront as exclusives. Rockstar Take-Two apparently alludes to them having some potential similar, perhaps a similar arrangement, or at least is just onesie twosie picking and choosing to put a lot of their releases out exclusively on via the Epic launcher. And again, this is the CEO Strauss Zelnick. One thing, a key thing that he mentioned that I think a lot of the angsters on Twitter fail to realize is, I guess what they have not mentioned very loudly is that those exclusives are not perma exclusives, that they are windowed exclusives. And so once they initially launch, Strauss, I was very surprised that he admitted this, because you almost never hear a CEO say this directly, indicated that the exclusivity period for their games is about 6 months. So 6 months after release, those games will then show up on Steam and via other outlets, which I think is a good news story for the people who, again, are crying foul about exclusives, and also means that to me the devs and publishers have made an even better deal, because they didn't commit to permanent exclusives, so they're getting paid. I mean, most of these titles, when I hear that they're going exclusives, the number I'm hearing as the upfront payout is at least $1 million from Epic. And then on top of that, then after 6 months, they get to go sell it wherever they want to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, I mean, that's always going to get lost in the shuffle with people yelling about, the exclusivity in the first place. That's, the internet. But Swiss, you've been quiet here for a little bit. Any comments on the financials, the games coming up? Internet?
I think every time I was about to chime in, you guys changed the subject. Yeah, as far as like the actual original financials piece, I just think that most of that has to be driven by Red Dead Online, right? I mean, even talking about GTA 5 is still selling copies. Nobody's buying that for the campaign anymore. It's all GTA 5 Online. And
that's, I mean, I don't think it's Red Dead. I think it's much more so GTA 5 Online. Is that what you were saying? I thought at first you said it was
either one. Like even the Red Dead 24 million copies. I think people probably picked it up, played some of the campaign, but really they're waiting to fantasize about being an outlaw in the Old West with their buddies on Red Dead Online. And while I tend to agree with Prime that being able to hope for the variety of experiences that GTA 5 affords in an Old West setting is probably optimistic. I think, people are willing to put their money down for that. You mentioned how Take-Two seems to be locking it in. It's just, I feel like they haven't killed their franchises with they haven't inundated people with their franchises. It's like Activision, it feels like they're starting to peter out, right? We've been getting a Call of Duty like almost every year. EA, it just feels like they're petering out, and I mean even looking into other forms of media, like Disney now pretty much announcing that, hey, we're only going to do a Star Wars every other year. It's almost like Take-Two's in some sense has been able to avoid some of the fatigue in consumers. Like Borderlands 3 is super hyped right now because we haven't seen a Borderlands 2 or a new Borderlands title in so long. So I feel like for whatever reason they've been able to tap into a good balance of, get an initial single player user base, and they perfected that long tail revenue stream. And so people invest money in those experiences over a number of years, but then they're still willing to completely reboot and reinvest in an entirely new game when when the sequels come out. So looking into these new game announcements, whether I think it's too soon for Civilization 7, but like, what do they have? They have like Max Payne, trying to see Robotech,
BioShock.
BioShock.
Yeah.
So they have some games that haven't been around for a while and could definitely generate some hype. I I feel like they just get it right now as far as like understanding the video game marketplace. But like to quote Patton, right, all glory is fleeting. So, they shouldn't get too much hubris.
Yeah, and I think maybe people kind of forget like how I'm gonna say how large because they're not super big, but they're a lot bigger than probably what people think. Like I said, you mentioned BioShock. I forgot that was a Take Two game. I forgot about Civ 6, even though I have the game. I just didn't, I don't equate that to Take Two. There's a couple games on here I wasn't sure. I think there might be mobile games because they're talking. There's a section in here during the financial article we have here. Other than Rockstar, obviously they have other games in the Take Two portfolio. They have the sports games, obviously NBA and WWE. Then they had one called WWE Supercard and Dragon City, and Dragon City and the Monster Legends. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if those are mobile games, maybe. So I'm sure that's probably doing a lot on mobile because obviously
Dragon City says it's a social network game.
Okay, so maybe it's like a Facebook or something game, or
yeah, launched on Facebook.
Okay, so yeah, I'd never even heard of those, so I'm sure those are free to start or free to play, and then you got microtransactions and all that stuff. So they're probably not making they're probably maybe making millions, but obviously not tens and hundreds of millions like GTA and all that. But still, they have a lot under their umbrella here. I mean, are you looking forward to Borderlands 3 coming out? Or any games?
I am looking forward to Borderlands 3. I'm one of those people that still play Borderlands 2 from time to time. I was a latecomer to the Borderlands franchise, but I like it. I like the style of game. I like the looter shooter aspect, and I mean, there's a part of me that enjoys the irreverent humor in the franchise. It's a nice formula. So yeah.
All right, so I was looking forward to Borderlands here, but this kind of goes into our next thing here.
Well, just before we move on, probably one thing I just want to mention. So just and I'm not sure exactly what the state of Max Payne is and where that lies, but I just do want to make sure because I frequently confuse it. So Remedy Entertainment, which is a development studio, is, as far as I understand it, is not owned by Take Two. Even though I think Rockstar has sometimes published some of their games or co-developed some of their games. So one of the big reasons I mentioned that is a very big upcoming summer release that is getting a lot of buzz is Control. That is not a Take Two property. That is actually which is being developed by Remedy, but is not being published by Rockstar or Take Two. It is being published by 505 Games.
Yeah, I think Max Payne came out. Remedy was the original, obviously, people that made the game and
yeah, they were the original developer. It was originally published by Gathering of Developers, or God, if you will, and then they later aligned with Take Two Publishing to publish later iterations, and later iterations. Max Payne 3 may have been done directly by Rockstar.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go with it. I know they did the last one, and I don't think Remedy had like anything to do with it. So I don't know if they like bought the property or I'm assuming because they've never done anything with it since 2. So all right, so Borderlands 3. Let's talk about this for a minute. I've voiced my opinions on this game, and not necessarily the game, I should say, but people behind the game, certain people behind the game. It seems maybe other people are starting to come around, or not come around, but starting to say things about a certain CEO of Gearbox. So, and I don't know, I remember they talked about a disgruntled employee, or supposedly an ex-employee that was kind of talking bad about Gearbox and the CEO, Randy Pitchford. I don't know if this is the same gentleman or if this is a new thing, but David Eddings, recently was speaking about Randy Pitchford, and he was the voice of Claptrap, everybody's favorite little R2D2 robot or whatever, of the Borderlands series. And he was just coming out and he was saying how, he was bullied and he was harassed and I guess physically assaulted. He said shoved, so I'm just gonna say physically, and just basically humiliated on his time at the company, which of course, Pitchford came back, and this is through Twitter, is saying he's just a former employee, he's just disgruntled. But do you guys remember the if this was the same gentleman they talked about? I don't know, I think it was like a month or so ago, that was kind of bringing up stuff about Pitchford and just kind of Gearbox in general.
I don't remember this specifically coming up, and in fact, one of the things that I mentioned when I saw this news story this morning is I'm a little, I guess I'll say, disappointed that we everybody jumped up and down and waved the battle flag about the Riot Games walkout, and other things that have gone on about harassment in the workplace, in the gaming industry, and yet here is a, as far as I can tell, and I hope nobody finds this offensive, here's a white male, right, who was harassed in a gaming workplace, and it's fairly quiet. In fact, I think the only other place that I saw this news article being run was on I don't know, like a second or third tier gaming site. Maybe it was over on Game Industry Biz as well. But it's in Newsweek is the most prominent news source. Which surprising that it's in a mainstream mag like Newsweek. But this is not like a battle flag that the gaming media and game journalism has picked up and waved, and I'm a little concerned about.
I want to say I think I saw something in Game Informer, but I think now isn't there some beef between Game Informer and Randy Pitchford now anyway?
Yeah, yeah.
So
that was something that came out last week too, I believe.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly what it was, but well, it's funny you mentioned that, I guess, because when I saw the other, it wasn't even, I don't even think it was an article. It was just like a mention somewhere maybe in online website about, like I said, I don't know if this was the same person or if this is a different person, but it was just kind of mentioned there, and then I never heard about it again. So I don't know if what's going on. Is this guy untouchable or something, or is he just no one wants to admit he's doing something? Is he maybe not? I mean, he might not be doing anything at all. Maybe just it is disgruntled, former employees talking up, just trying to talk smack or something. But I mean, I don't know. It just seems weird that if this is another person, this would be a second person coming out and saying, there's something wrong, something going on at this place or with Pitchford. So I don't know. I'm sorry, Swiss. I think I cut you off there.
I don't remember what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, for me, I mean, I'm looking at the front page of Google when I search for this topic, and of the big gaming websites, none of them that I could tell just based on the Google search ran this article with any significant amount of SEO other than Ars Technica. And I don't even think of I don't even think of gaming as being squarely in the Ars Technica bullseye. It's something they cover, but it's not like their banner property. So just a little, we could do better, I think, is how I feel about it.
I also think to Prime's point, at this point, it still feels like it's he said, she said type situation. I mean, I know it's two guys, but we only have two people arguing about who's really at fault or whatever. And while everything I've seen that's text messages and stuff that's come out from Pitchford does not paint him to be the classiest of fellows, we still don't know how much of it's hyperbole and how much of it, we're still on the outside looking in. So I think it's wise to be cautious. I certainly think that there are plenty of news stories that we can go back through over the last several years and say, oh wow, the media really jumped onto that really hard, and then when the full truth came out, there was there had to be some walking back because people assume certain things. So I I I appreciate precaution, but I also understand what you say about there seems to be a little bit of a weird double standard with regards to this particular story versus other stories that we've heard in recently last few weeks in the gaming media.
I think the thing that's condemning, and I think you hit the nail square on the head, Swiss, is like, okay, so accept that this is not going down in a court of law, and it's difficult to prove any like direct culpability with some of the events that went on. However, I feel like the trail of text messages that Newsweek has, I accept this as tangible proof right now until Pitchford comes out and says, no, those aren't my text messages, and I haven't heard him say that. And just as you mentioned, right, as we have issues with perhaps some other individuals who occupy certain positions of authority, there's a certain carriage that you bear when you are in those positions. And these text messages, these are things that you do not put in hard copy writing that can be reproduced when you are a CEO.
No, I get the sense that he's like completely just frat boy that was in the games, and Gearbox got huge, and he's there as a remnant, but he is not there for his leadership qualities. It's just like he inherited it.
Right.
Is the sense that I get.
Yeah, these are not things that you say to an employee. No. Again, not in a traceable, reproducible manner, right? These are, and I will admit it, in younger years, these are things that I have started to write, but that now at my age, if it, I delete and back out when I think about, what trail is this going to leave that somebody can reproduce, right? And
if you ever want to become president, you don't want to you want to leave that evidence behind. That's what you always got to think about.
Yeah. So, and I mean, and I say that I say that to put it in my opinion, I say that to put it in a frame that I think even the most irrational people on the internet couldn't argue with. That when you're a CEO, there's a certain bearing that you're expected to have because you're a publicly traded company, right? But beyond that, right? Then what I do is I look at this stuff and I go, this is not how you talk to a human being, particularly when you're in a position of power, and the other person that you're communicating with is somebody who clearly has no power in the relationship. You can't. I mean, that is the definition of abusive, and to me, that's clearly painted here by these text messages.
I think getting to the point that Prime was probably alluding to in the segue to this story, is Randy Pitchford's behavior, like we have some documented behavior, whether it's the full-on gamut of what Eddings has said or not. We do have documented, like you said, examples of abusive power in these text messages. Is that enough to prevent people from purchasing Borderlands 3? And I've been thinking about it, and there's kind of there's a difficult balance, because on the one hand, he represents the company, and you in some way, by supporting the company, you're kind of tangentially supporting him. But in another way, he isn't all of the company, and there's a lot of people that are working really hard on Borderlands 3, and their careers are predicated on it, and they're trying to feed their families and everything like that. So I definitely think that there's no hard and fast rule. I think you have to take this on a case-by-case basis. And right now, personally, I'm falling on I'm not going to boycott a Borderlands 3 because I think Randy Pitchford's a jerk. because I know there are a lot of jerks in Hollywood, and I know there are a lot of jerks in entertainment and media, and while it can affect my purchase behavior, right now I don't feel like he's crossed that line where it would affect my willingness to support the company at large, I guess you would say.
Yeah, and just because you had mentioned this before earlier, Swiss, about the GameStop thing, that was, I guess the I'm sorry, not GameStop. Game Informer had tweeted out mentioning that Pitchford had mentioned in a live stream for Borderlands 3, that there wouldn't be any microtransactions. But then when they interviewed one of their developers, Paul Sage, he said that there would be cosmetic items, obviously, that you can buy like later on, but they that they weren't gonna nickel and dime people to death. So, but that kind of goes against what Randy had said. So then he started going back and forth with him, which okay, that was fine. Maybe that's just miscommunication. But I mean, still, we'll see.
Yeah, I guess this is kind of newsworthy, but for me, it's like it's news. In some sense, it's newsworthy, but in another sense, I'm like, I don't know how much I really can get outraged about it. That might sound bad. I guess I'm trying to say is like, I just wish people would treat other people with respect and with you, like everybody. I acknowledge everybody's innate dignity as a human being, and I know that there are jerks out there, but I don't know. I don't want him to get away with it, but I'm also sick of seeing internet lynch mobs, doing the 2 minutes hate every 10 seconds for stuff. So I don't know. For me, it's kind of complicated, and it's all wrapped up around this game franchise that I like. So.
Well, I mean, that's interesting you say that, and it kind of goes back to, and this might be a bigger topic maybe that we can jump on some other time, but something that Gascles had mentioned on the last episode during the GX show about Mortal Kombat. I mean, is there reasons that notwithstanding on gameplay and graphics and all that kind of stuff, is there outside reasons that hey, I don't want to buy this? And for me, like I said, unfortunately, Borderlands 3, I'm probably not going to pick it up. Partly because of that, because of the Pitchford thing, and it's been other things too that I've seen in interviews with him and so on. But I mean, a lot of things too is there's just so many games nowadays, and it's just I gotta pick and choose, and this one is like, okay, this guy's kind of being a jerk, so I'm not gonna pick this up, at least for now. I mean, probably maybe eventually. I mean, I love the first two. I played them on PC and 360, I believe. One of them, I think two, I played on 360. The first one I played on PC. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, might be a bigger discussion for another day. So.
Well, just if I can just so because I think I reasoned through this while Swiss was talking. The difference for me between this and the Mortal Kombat thing, and there's a line here that draws back to Destiny 2 as well. The difference for me is that this is not, at least at face value right now, this is not an individual having a problem with a group, race, class, or whatever of people. This is a person who's just a jerk. So that carries weight, and people have to make their choices on that. For me, so far, as Swiss mentioned, he hasn't crossed the line of saying, here's a class of people who is less than another group of people. Although you could, I mean, there's probably some of that to a certain extent in there, but I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe that's all voice actors or crap, or whatever. It is with Pitchford. I don't know, but it's not in that realm. And I was trying to untie that knot, because when Swiss mentioned it, well, what are you going to do about it? And I thought back to this. It's very similar to the pissing contest that went on between Marty O'Donnell and Bungie. Now, from that aspect, I felt like I kind of had a better read on who Marty O'Donnell was as a person from me tracking his career through him doing the composition of the Halo soundtracks. But but that was, again, that was a disagreement between people and behavior, and somebody feeling like they had, been wronged. It wasn't, this is a, I mean, again, Pitchford's not being painted as a very good guy, but at least to date, this is not Randy Pitchford doesn't like black people, or Randy Pitchford doesn't like homosexuals, or Randy Pitchford doesn't like, whatever. So not quite there yet, but
I'm glad you articulated it in that fashion, because I think that helps me kind of crystallize my thoughts on it. Because like certainly there are like companies that I don't want to support, when they come out on social media and say this or that, and it's like, yeah, that's fundamentally going against my beliefs in it, and like, but I was having trouble thinking about it in those terms. But when you said it in the terms of a class of people, whether it's race, religion, whatever, so I think that helps focus it. And this being, while he's being a jerk, is still person to person, so it's, I guess, a smaller matter and less of a corporate Pitchford dragging Gearbox. I mean, it doesn't look good for Gearbox, but it's not like Pitchford is completely tarnishing the Gearbox, brand in a way.
I mean, so far right now, he is not making an effort. There's not an ongoing crusade to institutionalize that behavior and have everybody.
Okay.
As far as we can tell.
You keep articulating it better than I. It's been my getting from here out here, which is bad for a podcaster, because like that's what I'm supposed to do. But I'm glad you're here because
you're on the spot. You're getting put on the spot. No, you're not.
You're helping me think through this and process it. So
all right, Prime. Let's talk about some happier stuff. Do we have anything happier to talk about?
Sort of, I guess. So let's talk about Outer Worlds.
Okay.
It's the crowdfunded, supposed to be, I guess, not exclusive, but coming to Steam. And I guess technically it's still going to come to Steam eventually, but it's exclusively going to drop first, kind of like you mentioned before on Epic Store, how Epic's scooping up all these exclusive lately. So yeah, originally it was, it was crowdfunded. They said, hey, we're going to put this on Steam. We're going to, when we get it out there, when we reach our goal. And then this past week, they turned around and said, well, it's coming to Steam, but first we're going to put it out on Epic. And, of course, the internet, jumped on their backs and, doing what the internet does best. And I guess, and I think I mentioned this in the Flock chat. I don't know. I unfortunately didn't get to, I read a little bit of the article initially, and then this is a different one, basically talking about the same thing. But I don't know if they actually said that it was going to, exclusively come on Steam, or, if it was going to come first on Steam or anything like that. So I don't see why people would be mad. But I mean, I guess just mostly the Steam community, because they want this game out, I suppose. And, and this might be more so, the people who actually, pledge money, that I can maybe see is like, hey, we're giving you money. You said it's going to come out on this platform. But, now we got to wait however many, I don't know if they mentioned how many months it's going to be exclusive or not. I know like it's usually been 3 to 6 months, most of their exclusives on the Epic Store. So I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem a big deal, but like I said, I'm not a person who pledged money to it. So I don't know what you guys think of this.
Yeah. I mean, technically by the letter of the law, I don't think I mean, these guys haven't crossed a line of illegality. I think, they said, hey, pledge some money and you'll get a product. They never said that you'll get the product first. Now I think there's a notion of, kind of citizen right away here that I think you've definitely done something to shake the trust of those initial donors, because I shouldn't say investors, but donors, that maybe, you should compensate them in some way when the game does finally release on Steam. And then you're probably done doing a Kickstarter for at least, a few years until people forget the way that you burned them the first time. So, I mean, my feeling is they haven't done anything illegal. and I'll say even from a moral standpoint, I can come alongside them just in that. I think Swiss was the first one who really mentioned this. If the matter was, and I mean, I think part of the thing is I think a lot of people don't understand how startups work. But like, you work for a big company, when that earnings statement comes out about like how much cash they have on hand, right? Like, there's little to no risk of you not getting a paycheck, right? Because something didn't happen. But like startups, they literally have a bank account that has money in it or it doesn't have money in it, right? And when so and so goes to Office Depot to buy pencils, that money probably comes out of that exact same bank account. Like, it's not like payroll for most of us is in some type of protected account that only certain people can touch. But a startup, payroll might just be in the rolling expense fund account. And so,
Have
there's
you guys seen Ghostbusters when they're eating the Chinese food? That's a startup.
right. Yeah, no, right, exactly. And so, getting $1 million from Epic means that you could take 500,000 of that and put it in a payroll account and protect that and pay your employees, rather than pulling a now I'm forgetting the name of the studio, but rather than pulling a Telltale Games, and not being able to pay people, or an on live, when they turned the corner one week and came in and weren't able to pay people, or have employees' checks actually bounce, which often happens at startups. So, to me, it was a matter of employees. Some employees were going to get sent home, or the game just wasn't going to come out.
Honestly, I think you might be a bit harsh, even in your statements of like, the legality and it's not fair, and people, may perhaps need to be compensated a little bit for Steam. They started the crowdfunding campaign, the Outer Wilds. Many pledge, according to this article in Gadget, Outer Wilds campaign 2015, on the assumption they get it through Steam on launch day. 2015 is before the Epic Store. It's before Fortnite went gangbusters. It's before PUBG went gangbusters. Okay, so like, this is before like any of that. They had no idea that on the horizon there'd be any other platform on the PC that was viable. So, of course they're going to say, yeah, we're releasing it on Steam on launch day. Like, it wasn't, we're going to do PS4 or, whatever, and then Steam sometime. And now it's going to be 6 months. It's not like they're saying, well, we're going to release it on Epic Store now, and we have plans to release it on Steam, but we don't have a date yet, which is basically, me as a parent saying, if somebody wants, can we have the cookie? And I say, well, let me think about it. It's a nice way of saying no. So, it's going to happen. So I don't know. I really have a hard time. As much as I'm a guy that likes having Steam, and I don't want to have another game portal to have to deal with. It's just purely it's purely a convenience thing for me. I can understand some people being upset because maybe their friends will pick it up on Epic, and I don't know if there's going to be cross-play between PC players in the Steam store and the Epic store. I think that's the only legitimate, really, excuse you can have, is that some of my friends aren't going to be accessible because I'm playing on Steam and they want to play on Epic. But
so I feel like there's an argument. Again, I don't feel it's one that anybody should like, be having an anxiety attack over. I feel like there's an argument that says, now first of all, let's accept Kickstarter and crowdfunding as a valid source of pre-ordering. But first, you have to overcome that hill of an argument, which I'll reverse course here on that in a second. But if you accept that that's an acceptable method of pre-ordering, I feel like there is this notion of a customer commitment that I expect you to honor, just in terms of, I've given you $100 or whatever for delivery date of a product. I wasn't giving that to you as that loan was only good up until a certain point, right? After a certain point, like I feel like there's a business ethics problem with you built this thing with the funds that I gave you, right? You built 80% or 90% of it. And I know that guy just walked through the door with a bigger check, but he came in at the last minute. Like, how does he go to the head of the line, right? When I came in and put my down payment in before that guy. I mean, I feel like that's a problem, and I feel like something about that seems icky. And I feel like as a business, you should do something about that. Now, that all being said, I will doggone sure be the first person that says, if you're the guy who goes in on a Kickstarter or a crowdfunding, given like the wonky, like bullcrap, like unregulated cowboy Wild West environment that is, then you kind of deserve whatever you get, right? Because I don't do that. And build your product, test your product, tell me your product's ready, then I'll gladly exchange you currency for a hamburger today. But I'm not giving you money for you to cook a hamburger 5 years from now and then give it to me right on a date, on some date in the future.
Well, that's just the thing. It's like, it's always, I'm sorry, go ahead, Prime.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, finish your thought, because I don't want you to forget it.
It's I have limited capacity for thought.
That's right.
It's always some date. It's like some time in the future. They don't lay down a date and say, like, this is launch, we're going to do it in 2019. Like, they may hope that they can, but as a Kickstarter, it's understood that we're working on it and we need help to get this done. But when it's done, you'll get it. And I think that's always been the thing.
I'm going to challenge your convention just a little. And again, I'm not riding in like Don Quixote on a horse, right, with a lance tilting at your windmill. But just to empathize with the way I think these guys feel is you pre-order a pizza, right? You wake up Saturday morning, you go to the online web store, you order a pizza, and you tell them, I need the pizza ready at 5 p.m. that afternoon, right? You walk in at 5, the pizza's not ready. Dude comes in the door, pays $20 for his pizza and tips him an extra 10. And in the span of the time that you're waiting there, he gets his pizza first. Right? I mean, that's how I think these guys feel.
Yeah, but it's a poor analogy because nobody said that your pizza was going to be ready at 5. They said, if you pay us, we'll get you a pizza.
All right. Okay.
And as far as like who came in later or who was there earlier, haven't you people ever heard the parable of the workers in the vineyard? I mean, come on.
I'm not going to say it. Never mind. So my thought is here. All right. So without ever seeing like their crowdfunding page and what they promised, I guess I'm just trying to find it now too, and I couldn't find anything. But like, I don't know if they explicitly said this is definitely coming on Steam, or if they just said this will be out on Steam, and other things maybe eventually, or how the wording was. But so now that we have it on the Epic Store exclusively, and I don't see it in this article either. Did they say that you can get it on the Epic Store if you wanted? Like, that's where I guess I don't know. I don't know how the crowdfunding really works. Like, if you pledge money, do you get the game automatically? I mean, it's not like a game preview where obviously you give money like on Steam or whatever, Xbox, and you do get the obviously the unfinished game. But this is crowdfunding. This isn't the game's being worked on. Like, it might not even have started actually being in production or anything like that. So I guess that's where I'm kind of like, do you actually get promised the game, I mean, in full as soon as it's done? Or I mean, is it like I don't know, like a line, like a waiting list you get put on? Or because I'm thinking if you can get on the Epic Store, I mean, okay, just pick it up on the Epic Store. Okay, fine, it's not Steam, and I know people like Steam and all that, but I guess that's where I'm just getting a little confused.
Yeah, I thought I saw
if they're even.
I thought I saw at one point a guy said that he got, I don't know, maybe it wasn't this one. I thought I saw in here that
if they honor it on the Epic Store.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought I thought I read somewhere that they were given keys, that they were given Steam keys. So I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, for when they initially pledged.
Yeah, or it's not, maybe not right when they pledge, but at some point between now and then.
Before it finished or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean,
yeah, I thought I saw that somewhere, but
on
I mean,
Fig they just say digital copy is what
Okay.
they say. So
Okay.
I assume that comes in the form of a Steam key, or now whatever the equivalent Epic key, whatever they want to call it, is.
But yeah, I think I understood Prime's question as, were you given like a pre-order voucher that is specifically for the Steam store, and as part of the consternation that it's either not clear or it doesn't exist, that you can now swap that for an Epic voucher, so you can still get the game on release day. You just have to suck up the switch to the Epic launcher.
Yeah, or just wait until it comes out on Steam, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. I mean, everything I've seen about people complaining has been the notion that the game's coming out on Epic, and then I have to wait 6 months to get it on Steam. But it hasn't been clear to me if they're waiting 6 months because they have some personal hang up about wanting to play it over there, or if it's because literally that it's tightly coupled in some kind of a pre-order queue with Steam as a specific service.
Yeah, and they don't mention on here, or at least in the Engadget one, like what platform this was, the crowdfunded source. So I don't know. I'm assuming it wasn't. Shoot, what's like the major one out there? Crap, where you can pledge money for stuff. I can't remember what the name is now, but anyways, it's not one of the major ones, obviously, that you hear about all the time. So like GoFundMe or something like that. So I don't know. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, if it was that case, like, hey, here's your Steam key. Once the game comes out, yeah, I'd be pretty pissed. I mean, if I had to wait 3 to 6 months, I mean, but like I said, they don't really specify like what, like what the actual deal was. So I don't know. I can see the hate though a little bit coming through. All right. Any other responses on this one? No. If we want to, we'll jump through these. We've got a couple more here. Not non 2K game related stories here. So this is a good story. So Devil May Cry, Capcom product, Capcom property. This has gone through a little bit of a rejuvenation here. Well, we've had Devil May Cry 5 that came out, and this, according to Capcom, has been doing pretty good. I don't know if Gascles, if you or Swiss had thrown that out there. If you want to go through that.
I don't think I did the story, but I voted for it. So I'm just surprised. Like, this story was out there, like Devil May Cry 5 doing really well. Kind of to tag along, Monster Hunter World's doing gangbusters still. I saw a story somewhere. It's not on our agenda, but Capcom is having a sneaky good year. And that's really what piqued my interest in this story. They've had some of these franchises, and it just feels like all of a sudden they're leveraging them to success now. And I guess I don't want to imply that Monster Hunter hadn't been successful in the past, but it's like, I don't know. I don't ever put in my mind Capcom up there with like some of the other titans like anymore, but it just feels like they're starting to get some IPs that's really getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, I know. They kind of waned there in the last few years, other than maybe then Street Fighter. Obviously, they had 4 and 5. Was it 5? I believe so. They had come out and obviously did very well. And they had, I think, what it probably started with Resident Evil 7, where it started. They started kind of turning around again with other properties, not just Street Fighter. So they've been doing pretty good. And like you said, Monster Hunters, I think it was like a moderate success before. I mean, it was started out on like mobile, like PSP and DS and stuff like that. And I don't think it was really huge until Hunter World came out. So, but yeah, it's. I don't know. I might have played like a demo or something of Devil May Cry. I don't know if you guys have played the game yourselves, any iteration.
I played the original on PS2 and defeated it.
Yeah, that's. I think I bought the original and played it like via hardware backwards compatibility. I think in the PlayStation 3 era, and I was not super. Again, it was certain parts of it back then for the first one had that kind of Ninja Gaiden like level of difficulty to it, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm done with like I don't need that. I don't need to be stuck on one single boss battle for like 20 minutes, half hour, an hour. Or
Sometimes, Agasicles, you and I are very different gamers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention for those who don't know what Devil May Cry is, it's like that, like you mentioned, like Ninja Gaiden, Bayonetta, fast, frenetic, swords and guns all at the same time, or individually, and that kind of third-person game, action game. Well, the original is coming to Switch too this summer, so maybe I will finally get into a Devil May Cry game. So, and I believe they had released a bundle, I think, of the last few games within the last year or so, I believe, of the previous games, the kind of remastered, I suppose, or redone. So
it's kind of hard. Like the game there's been a lot of iterations, and I haven't kind of really been able to follow what's happened. So
yeah, but yeah, like I said, I'll probably pick up the Switch version since it's going to be coming out for that. So and have a go at it. I've dabbled in like Ninja Gaiden before, and Bayonetta, obviously on the Switch. So I think I've kind of Ninja Gaiden, obviously, yeah, it was hard back in the day, and Bayonetta is not too bad. It's you can get hard at parts, but it's fairly easy. So we'll see what happens here. I guess, Eccles, do you want to take this last one real quick to take us out on Rage 2? Coming out with their streaming interactivity with Switch. I mean, I'm sorry, Switch with Twitch.
Yeah, I know. Not really. I didn't.
Oh, I thought you put that one out there.
No.
All right, so I can go over with this. It's not a very long article, so I'd read through it earlier. But yeah, so Rage 2 is coming out. I believe did it come out already, or it's coming out this week?
I think it may have dropped today.
Okay, so they have some Twitch integrations where they actually have some extensions within Twitch where for the viewers who are watching the streamer play the game, the person goes down and they can actually play a little what they call a defibrillator, mini game, which would actually help revive the player after they die or about to die. So that's kind of cool. I mean, the more people that do it, play the mini game, the more health they get, and the better restored they are. Once they bring it back. So kind of cool. I don't know if they've ever done anything quite like that before. I know in other games you maybe I don't know if Minecraft can do it. I might even be thinking of Mixer, but you can kind of interact with your streaming person that you're watching. So it's kind of interesting that they do something like that. I don't know if you would ever want to do. I know you're a big streamer, I guess, Cleese. I don't know if you'd ever want anything like that, or if you just want just to play the game.
Yeah, I never would because where they're enabling that is on Twitch. And that's just not where I line up for a few different reasons.
Would you want that interactivity though, just in general? Maybe.
I think I'm gonna go on record now and say my initial answer to that is no. That's giving it 10 seconds of thought. Just because, I think because my streams are so much more about.
They are helping you. It's not like they're hindering you or anything like that.
Yeah, but usually, like on my streams, even when I was on Twitch, I would use the no backseat gaming label because a lot of there's not a lot of times that I buy a game on release day. I mean, a lot of times I wait to see how other gamers are going to react to it. So I'm not often playing a game like first, and part of that unraveling, right, of any complexity in question, including in those initial hours of onboarding, I need to experience that without somebody cueing me or prodding me in order to render an effective decision, right? Because part of my thing is, if something is just so Byzantine, that it's like the game is playing I've got a secret kind of thing, then like I'm not going to stick with that. And I wouldn't want to stick with something like that because I had a bunch of people in chat like telling me, pull the lever, turn this knob, now go down the spiral staircase kind of thing.
Yeah.
In order to evaluate the goodness of the design of the game, I need to work through that myself to determine whether or not it's sufficiently intuitive for somebody onboarding to stick with it.
Yeah, I can see. I mean, I can see how that could get kind of annoying after a while when you get people just, hey, go this way, go that way, stuff like that. Especially if they've played through it themselves, and I don't know why you'd want to watch somebody play it though if you played through it. But that's the new generation. Swiss, I know you're a big streamer and you like to watch streamers, don't you?
Not so much.
But do you have any comments on something like this?
I personally would not really like that for a lot of the reasons that Gascles just stated. Because when I'm experiencing the game, I want to experience the game. I remember I was playing Splatoon, the original Splatoon on the Wii U, and I was at the final boss fight, and all of a sudden my son, who was like 6 at the time or something, 5 or 6, right, starts telling me like how to fight the guy. I'm like, I thought you were like 4 levels behind me, like you haven't even gotten here yet. He's like, well, no, but I saw it on YouTube. I'm like, well, I don't want to know how to beat it. I want to figure it out myself. So no, I wouldn't like it. However, they said id Software studio director, he said, I do believe this is actually the future of gaming. And he's probably right, as much as that annoys me, my preferences. But and I have seen some aspect of this work. Okay, I'm gonna like go way down in the nerd well here and say that when I was trying to learn how to play Dungeons and Dragons, I found a YouTube video where there are people, they get like 4 or 5 people to play Dungeons and Dragons. They use Roll20.net, I think is this website for the basis, and they have a dungeon master and they play a scenario and a campaign together. However, it's kind of a live stream event, and they have people watching, and periodically the dungeon master will like put up, like either take suggestions or put up votes or something, and the audience can basically affect the story. Like, okay, a wizard just cast you into the portal and now you're in the nether realm. Whatever. I don't even know the jargon for D&D. But stuff will happen. And it kind of gets goofy and it's fun and it involves the audience, so to speak. And for that, I think it's great. But for a game like, Agascles is saying, like when I'm trying to figure out a puzzle or figure out a strategy for defeating it, it doesn't feel like you're enhancing the experience for me. It feels like the audience is just ruining the experience for me because part of the experience is figuring it out. So I'm curious to see how games will evolve to take on that community aspect. I just don't think a lot of games we have now have that really. And me allowing me to revive some player is just like a cheap cheat code that enables Twitch or YouTube or whoever to make a few cents more off my monitoring or whatever.
So I don't know if was this on either of yours wheelhouse? If anybody going to pick it up, Rage 2?
I'm not plunking down for a pre-order. I'll keep an eye on it and see how it tracks on Metacritic.
So I haven't read too much on it. So is this mainly a single player game, or as far as you can tell?
I don't know what the multiplayer content is. I would say it definitely has a single player story driven campaign as at least part of the overall package. I'm not sure what else it has in it.
So I guess it doesn't really say in the article, but I mean, is this part of the multiplayer? Or is this part of the single player? Because if it was single player, I think that'd be kind of a waste. Because you'd probably just die and respawn anyways. I mean, that's how games are nowadays. I don't know what the point of that reviving a player would be. If it was multiplayer, okay, that makes more sense. You can jump back into action, and you don't have to wait until the next lobby if it's like just regular multiplayer or some kind of battle royale or something like that. So that's where I was kind of going with that. I just didn't know like what kind of game this was. So I don't know, the original one was just single player, right? As far as I know. Okay. So all right, gentlemen. We're over an hour now. I think we shall call this a night before Swiss brings up any more D&D on this episode, gets us more into the nerdery of our existence here. But before we go, please come back next week, next Tuesday, the 21st, May 21st. We'll have our GX show. And that'll be DB, Zeus, and myself. Talk about the games we've been playing these last couple weeks. Swiss or Guestclies, you got any plugs for anything? Guestclies, I've been watching your VR shows. I've been enjoying them greatly because I don't have a VR headset, so it's kind of nice to hear about that stuff.
Oh, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So is that regularly, or is that kind of just like whenever you guys get a chance to?
It's rarely, but it's not a live show right now. So we record Wednesday nights, and then generally the video should be up sometimes as soon as the next day. Audio. Generally, my cut is to get audio out at some point over the weekend.
Okay. Cool.
But generally once a week, you should be able to go find an episode of the VR show on YouTube or in one of our audio podcasting channels. So the Enough to Keep Going channel on YouTube, but then also the audio is distributed via Pocket Casts and Spotify and SoundCloud.
Okay, cool. Swiss, any last words on anything? Any plugs for anything?
Live long and prosper.
All right, so that's going to take us out for episode number 93 of the Enough to Keep Going podcast. Please go ahead and if you want to have any comments, post here on YouTube or email us. And please keep playing those games out there. Comment too if you're going to play anything, if you've played anything that we've mentioned here in the past on our other GX shows or even mentioned on a new show. So we'd love to hear back from you guys. Until next time, everybody, thank you and good night.